Welcome to Sharing Fire. I'm Dr. Marc Hardy. This is a show where we talk to people who are doing good things in the community or work with organizations who are doing good things in the community and helping people and giving them the tools to create a better life, a better future, a better community. In this case, the Elkhart County community. And with us today is Jodi Spataro, who I'm going to call, in my own words, the vice president of the Elkhart County Community Foundation, because every time I talk to her boss, Pete McCowan, he says, you know, you ought to talk to Jodi about that. So you're like the go-to person over there, right?
Whatever Pete asked me to do, I try to accomplish those as best as I can. So.
Well, you have had quite a ride, but before we get to what goes on in the foundation, I want to talk about you, because I'm always curious as to how people come into the nonprofit sector and how they end up doing the things they do, because most of them tell me that they had no idea they were going to end up here. I mean, it was not in their vision of the world at that time, right? So what happened? How'd you get here?
Well, you know, you're right. This wasn't my vision. This wasn't my plan. But I was a senior in high school, and my grandmother was diagnosed with colon cancer. And then shortly thereafter, I graduated, was on track to become an athletic trainer, believe it or not. And something caught me. I was working part-time at a bank, and one of my coworkers was diagnosed with breast cancer. And my grandmother coincidentally had surgery, was in and out of the hospital, no big deal. And then my coworker, who was diagnosed with breast cancer, ended up losing her life to the disease. And it didn't make sense to me. I was some naive, young kid, and it just didn't make any sense to me why one person could just go in and have surgery. And I shouldn't say that just, but my grandmother's journey was much more easy the first time than my coworkers at the time, who coincidentally lost her life. And I went into the American Cancer Society office and I said, why are these two people so drastically different? And it came down to early detection. And they said, we really need somebody with your passion and your voice to help us spread the word about early detection. And there was born my not-for-profit background. And I volunteered for the American Cancer Society, helped start the Relay for Life in St. Joe and Elkhart County, and was just a community, volunteer. And then they asked me to become staff, and worked for them for several years, and so has the migration begun for my career in not-for-profit.
How long were you with the American Cancer Society?
Total with volunteer and being staff, close to 12 years.
It's a long time.
It was a very long time, yeah.
Wow. So your passion brought you into that because of incidents in your life.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you go from the American Cancer Society to what you're doing now. Was there a bridge in between?
There certainly was.
Okay.
Between the American Cancer Society, there was this little event at the University of Notre Dame when the president retired, Monk, and they were bringing in Father John Jenkins, and they needed some help planning the event. And I had worked with a number of people at Notre Dame doing Relay for Life, taking the event there, working with Daffodil Days, various outreach that the campus was very generous in participating in. And they asked if I was available to temporarily help plan Father Jenkins' inauguration. And
wow.
So I got to play in that field for about 2 years.
So you're like buddies now with Father Jenkins?
Yeah, sure.
That's great. He's a nice guy. I really have a lot of respect for him.
It was really, truly a spectacular thing to be a part of. You're right. He is an amazing man. And the people that I had the privilege to work with at Notre Dame planning the event was really, it was great. It was a top-class organization.
You don't have to say that just because I'm from Notre Dame.
No, I'm not just saying that. That's true.
So you went from Notre Dame to this then?
I did.
So how did that happen? I mean, you're at Notre Dame. We're not even in Elkhart County.
Right.
And you're in Elkhart County.
Yes.
And Pete goes, wow, I think we should bring her in.
Well, actually, at the time, Pete was at Bethel College. He was the Vice President for Institutional Advancement at Bethel College. Which
is where my undergrad is from.
Right, and that's where my undergrad is from.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact,
that's right.
Yes.
We're alums.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Yeah.
I was on campus, and one of my professors knew that I would be leaving Notre Dame. I was a single mom, and some of the offers that Notre Dame was presenting to me were not real conducive to being a single parent. And so I sat down with Pete while he was at Bethel College, and he said, boy, I really wish I had something for you, but I'm at capacity, but I have a colleague who is looking for a development professional. Do you mind if I forward your resume? And he forwarded my resume to then President Earl Taylor at the Community Foundation, Elkhart County, and that is how I ended up in Elkhart County. So I have everything that I have right now to thank Pete for.
So now how long have you been at the foundation?
Going on 8 years.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. I've extended my, outlived my life expectancy of a normal development officer. So an organization, they tell me that it's typical that development officers only stay at one place for 2 or 3 years. So we're ever changing in Elkhart County, so it's not too stagnant. It's pretty exciting.
Well, I like to have people explain how their organizations work and how their jobs work, because one of the objectives of this show is to educate people about how the nonprofit sector works. And what I'm wondering is, development officers in nonprofit organizations have to raise money to advance the mission of the organization through donations that are pretty specific to programs usually. How does that differ from what you do now? So you raise money for a specific organization. Now you're a development officer for a community foundation. How does that differ? It's
very different. I mean, throughout my career in raising dollars, it's always been one mission, one focus. Let's eradicate cancer. Let's find research dollars. Plan an event for Father Jenkins. A lot of people, when I explain what I do, it's the umbrella policy. It's I don't have to have one hat on. I get to wear multiple hats, and I get to have this great passion for several different not-for-profit organizations that are doing the work in our community, that really are improving the quality of life of people in Elkhart County. That's what makes it so different. I don't have to just focus on cancer or kids or senior citizens or pets. On any given day, I might be focusing on all of those things, working with donors to accomplish their philanthropic goals.
Now, one of the things that is unique about the Elkhart Community Foundation, we got to talk about this.
Okay.
Is the $150 million bequest you received from one particular individual, which is very, very rare, especially for a foundation of this size, because I think you had, what, 40 or 50 million in assets?
We were sitting at roughly about 45 million at the time.
45 million. And then along comes this gentleman who grew up in Elkhart and left many, many years ago. And when he passed away, left $150 million to the Community Foundation, not only to the Community Foundation, but unrestricted funds. That is unbelievable. That means you can use them for anything you want. It's not donor directed. So, so can you give our listeners, our viewers, a little background on how this all happened?
I certainly can. I probably am the least qualified person to give too much background. The relationship with David Gunlack really emerged with...
who is the donor, right?
That's the donor. I would say the relationship, Liz Borger, who truly is a champion for Elkhart County, brought David to us through being a classmate of his when they were in high school together, and he moved away to California, and his mom still lived in Elkhart County, and David said, I need somebody that I can trust to take care of my mom. Liz, would you please help? Alongside Mike Pianowski, Liz being a financial advisor, Mike being an attorney in Elkhart. And the two of them essentially said yes to David, and Liz has described this in the best way, and I will repeat her words. It is truly a love story between a son and his mother. David's passion for Elkhart County, for Elkhart, really stems because his mom, that's her home. She loves it there, and he wanted to make sure that his mom was well taken care of, and the community that she loved so much was well taken care of. And so I believe that love was so strong that is the reason that we have the gift from David. So
you never know really where these donations are going to come from, because David was out of the picture of Elkhart for what, 20, 25, 30 years, right?
Easily, yeah.
And his death was very unexpected.
It was.
So
right.
you know, it was really a big surprise for everybody.
And we did have a relationship with David on a, you know, a kind of a perimeter. I mean, we knew that he met with Pete the summer before he passed away. We had had a relationship and some communication with him prior to that, although limited. And anything about development is always about the relationship and the steps that it takes. It really takes a lot of time and patience and nurturing. And just like any of the other gifts that have made the Community Foundation, all of those individuals that accumulated the $45 million, those gifts didn't just come. They were all about a relationship similar to that of the gift that we have received from David. And while it was definitely a surprise just because he was a young man.
Right, he wasn't very old, yeah.
It was
in his 50s, wasn't he?
56, yeah. We knew that he had disclosed to us that we were going to be, he wanted the Community Foundation to be the beneficiary of his estate. We had no idea.
Because you're figuring
the size.
Life expectancy, 70, 80 years old, right?
Yeah. In fact, Pete even said to him, we'll have a long time building this relationship and getting to know you and what you like and your passions. I mean, Pete was excited to have the opportunity to work with him. Yeah. And little did we know, probably 4 months after that conversation that David had a heart attack and passed.
Well, because of this amazingly generous man and the relationships, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think people need to understand that when it comes to fund development, or advancement, or whatever else you want to call it, it really is about the relationships. You know, his mother lived here. That was his relationship with Elkhart because of the relationship with his mother and his relationship with the people who took care of his mother, and that led to this, right? All about the interconnected relationship and how it works. So this money came about a year ago. I mean, and so you've been spending the last year trying to figure out, what do you do now with this? What is it, about $10 million you're going to be able to give away now?
Eventually, right.
Yeah, eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
We have a spending policy in place that allows us to look backwards 16 quarters, and we take an average of that and calculate 5% of that average balance of 16 quarters. So at first we thought, why should the last 4 years kind of dictate how we move forward, looking forward in the next few years? But that also allowed us to push the pause button and make sure we got this right. And so we have spent the last year really trying to make sure we get it right. Right.
So what have you been doing to get it right?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Mark.
Everybody's, they see this money come in, they're like, oh, all right, right?
Right. Yeah. So for the past year, Pete and I, along with one of my coworkers, Amanda, we have been going out and listening to individuals, community people in Elkhart County, throughout Elkhart County, in all different walks of life, listening to their feedback. How would you spend $10 million improving the quality of life in Elkhart County? What are those areas? And it has been exhausting and it has been exhilarating. I have learned a lot about myself through the process of listening to people. I've learned a lot about Elkhart County, things that I never even knew how to connect the dots to. I learned through this process so many different ways that people are connected and how we can better connect people that aren't connected. So, I mean, we're talking about the Amish community allowed a conversation with Pete to listen to some of the needs in that Amish community and how can we better engage. If we're going to be the Elkhart County Community Foundation, but we're not serving the Amish population, then we truly aren't about the full community. We cannot be an exclusive club. We want to be inclusive of every person living inside Elkhart County, and how can we best do that? And this listening tour process allowed us that opportunity to hear people that are residents in our homeless shelter, that are receiving services from the Council on Aging, retired senior citizens, the kids. We had conversations with students in a high school classroom at the Boys and Girls Club. We talked, and we also listened to our not-for-profit leaders. We had a separate side of this conversation, this research project, that allowed our not-for-profit leaders to come in and talk to a third party with us not in the room, so that it was a candid conversation about what do you feel the role of the Community Foundation should be and how should we help them. And the feedback that we gathered from them was remarkable. I mean, they would like to see us be helpful to them, help them put the right tools in their toolbox. You talk about, you know, the need for development professionals in these not-for-profit organizations. How can we help those organizations afford that? Mm-hmm. What kind of things can we do to help them sustain their operations so they're not constantly needing these different fundraisers? But what role can the Community Foundation to help them do their mission? Mm-hmm. You know, their mission is, for many of them, very different, but nowhere in their mission is it to constantly raise money.
Right.
You know, so when they're spinning their wheels to raise the dollars, then they're spending less time doing their mission work. So what we hope to do at the Community Foundation is be that partner to help them be able to do their work, because they're the ones that are out there. They are providing the services, not us. We don't have the programs. We don't want to do the programs. We want them to do that. We want to be able to provide as much support as we can, so that they have the skills and the tools, like I said, to do their mission work.
Now, you just rolled this out yesterday?
Last week.
Last week, okay,
meeting.
okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I just saw it today because I don't live in Elkhart County, so sure. I didn't get this document. And I was very impressed when I read it, because it said in there that the Community Foundation will be a quiet influence. Mm-hmm. And I found that interesting, a quiet influence. And knowing Pete and knowing that he really is a relationship guy, he's so articulate. I'm thinking, I don't know. I mean, is quiet the right thing to describe him? But how does that work in the actual practice?
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the other sides of the research project was a three-prong approach that I